it was a multi-terminal. So what do we do when you've got 4 terminals? A, B, C, D. We eliminate signs. This helped a lot on the cost of building these things.
This program is brought to you in part by Oolite Arts, What Miami is Made Of, and by Friends of South Florida PBS.
My name is Pat Williams. I'm the executive producer of Jane Davis Dogget, Wayfinder and the Jet Age. My film is about a woman, Jane Davis Dogget, who in the 1960s invented wayfinding systems that are used in airports all over the world and large public places. It's a fascinating story of her work and her life. I hope you enjoy it.
I just don't think there's any way to leave color and geometrics out of any equation, whether you're going to be a realist painter or an abstract painter, and graphics is my field, really. So I think it had great influence on me. I think that artistic talent is there, and I think you just simply have to mine it. To me, though, I do think there's such a thing as talent, natural talent. The term wayfinding is a term that came into the field we do. I think it's appropriate because it's encompassing that you have a thread that you're following from airport entrance to gate. That you have that continuity of flow. I think it's a pretty good term. I was thinking then that the big spaces that we were going to create, that the architectural department was looking at huge spaces. We were going to be building airports and arenas and museums, and we were going to be doing big things. And it occurred to me, how in God's name are you going to get people to understand how those spaces work? They're going to be, you're going into a whole different environment, huge in scale. How are you going to know how to relate to it and how to use it? I had graduated from Yale in '56. I went to work at George Nelson's. Then I got a call from Roy Harrover, who had gone to Yale in architecture before me, and he said, Jane, he said, I think that my partner and I may have gotten the Memphis Airport project. And he said, I'm just putting a team together because we have a final interview coming up. And he said, I think we've got a chance to get this. He said, would you want to be on my team to do the graphics and to work with me? And here we were, just kids. I mean, I was under 30 and here we were just, but Yale had told us that you should fear nothing, that you could do anything. But after all, you graduated from Yale, and so, next stop was heaven or something. I mean, nothing could hold you back, and that you should feel like you could do anything, and that you should be inventive and innovative. And so Roy and I thought, why not do an airport? Then we had to say, well, what do we do? And Roy said, well, I really want graphics to be something in this. And he said, and you know how to do this? And I said, well, sure, yeah, I know exactly how to do it. Boeing had come out with this jet. Here I was doing what I really wanted to do, when I thought this would be what I'd like to do. And I hadn't realized that when I graduated from Yale, the piston turned into a jet. And all of these airports suddenly had to be built to go with this technology. You suddenly had a plane that was going to arrive with more people on it, and you couldn't have people go outside and walk up steps this way. You had to have a jetway. All these things suddenly came in to architectural necessity. These terminals were rinky-dink little places. We used to go outside to get baggage at Palm Beach in the rain, you know, to find our bags. And all this had to be, you were going to have a jet come in. You had to have an upbeat terminal. So talk about run and hurry. So who could do it? The old guard didn't know how to do this. He didn't know how to think it. So they gave these things to young people. The fact that it was the first where this system idea of graphics was initiated by getting the airlines to agree to a common typeface being used in the terminal and to identify all the airlines. That was a big departure for them. We said put your logo and your branding behind the ticket counter, but the band above is sacred and belongs to the airport. So we got them to agree to that. That was a breakthrough in the industry. Memphis represented the building in of graphics so that they didn't hang like tags, which is what used to happen. So that we integrated architecturally. That's where this bonding of graphics and architecture happened. So the signs look built into the building, not hanging off. And so we won a big award. We won several awards on the Memphis Airport, and I got an Architectural Institute award. The first time graphics had ever been recognized by the AIA. The next airport after Memphis was Houston. And in this airport, at Houston, it was a multi-terminal. So what do we do when you've got 4 terminals? So I said, okay, A, B, C, D. So I gave each, we used the same shape, geometric shape for the container of the letter, and I used a different color for each terminal. This helped tremendously because here's what we did that was unique at the time. We started the graphic system on the roadways. And the reason that is a breakthrough is because before that, the engineers, the civil engineers would come in and they would just say, well, put some more green signs up, you know, or blue or whatever, and put them up just like the interstate. So we said, no, if you're trying to get someone to a certain terminal and you're labeling A, B, C, then you've got to start that at the airport entrance. This was whole new thinking. If I'm going to Terminal A, I want to go start here a mile and a half out. And then I want to be led all the way to Terminal A, and then in there I want to know I'm in Terminal A. So then you look ahead and you see this big, huge letter that is way down here. Okay, what that does, instead of reading little bitty letters there with airlines, I can see that big target, and I can get in the right lane then. So this makes your traffic flow work. Before that, everybody was hitting brakes to read. Now, all of this was just done by this kid from Yale because I didn't know any better. You know, I thought, well, this ought to work. And I didn't realize that there was any other way. I mean, I thought that this would be a good way to move traffic. Sandwiched in between Houston and Baltimore was, of course, Tampa, which was a landmark airport. They're still using my logo. I think it's very gratifying to know that it could could still wear well from 1975. I think it's a pretty good thing. And the two-color system, we had in this system, we had one terminal and with two sides. The engineers were saying north side and south side. So I said, now wait a minute, fellas. No one's going to know where north and south are, particularly at night. So what are you going to call it? And I said, well, I think it should be red and blue. So knowing my color from Albert's color, I put a little bit of green in the blue, and I put some orange in the red, and I got them as far away from colorblind as you can get. It's so simple. One of the things that we were able to do, in addition to showing that we created safe driving, which again, I had no idea, but I just thought it would work, but it did. We eliminated signs. This helped a lot on the cost of building these things. I think we eliminated a third of what the engineers had originally put out. This is how you earn your fee. Miami International came out very well. I did the signs at Miami International, all the arch road signs that go, and these are quite wonderful. They've been used as icons to show Miami sometimes, the arches. And we put a recessed light in that support, which is pretty at night, and also people don't run into the stanchion. I think I did so much in airports, I decided I didn't want to see another airport. I just wanted to go back to do my own artwork that I started out with, and I tapped some roots there. So I'm doing three-dimensional graphics, I'd call it, mostly. Everything is a graphic form. I've done my talking graphics, the book, and I still love that. And I've done I've got on the American flag kick. I don't know why, I just wanted to do American flag. So I've done a lot of dimensional versions of stacking them. Working on the computer is just like magic, because my work that I do, I draw everything first, usually small, where you can see it. I like to draw small because you can see the whole thing better, you know. I do all the layering. Each thing I do is done in layers of shape and color, and it's called electronic silk screening. It's exactly what I call it, because all your separations of the layers are done on the computer instead of hand cutting those images on a screen. You know, you used to have to cut them in film. Talking graphics came about after I closed the door on the airports for a while, where I said enough is enough. I start with the proverb, less is more, or nature abhors a vacuum. And I don't illustrate it. I don't like to use that because that's not what I'm doing. I'm not illustrating a children's book or a message that an author would write. I'm expressing it with an economy of means of graphics and color. Just good, straight, the use of color symbolically and geometrics. They become iconochromes, I call them. In the case of the 23rd Psalm, the person telling the story, David, is a rectangle, straight up rectangle, and the Lord is a taller rectangle and he always has a halo. Those simple shapes, they're not stick figures, they're really just symbolic figures. Ultimately, I took the graphics and I put them into three-dimensional boxes. And these are just wraparound boxes mounted on the wall. This sculpture, composed of the 12 verses of the 23rd Psalm, is at Yale in the permanent collection. It's in the St. Thomas More Center in their wonderful conference room. A beautiful architectural work by Cesar Pelli, who's a renowned architect, and I'm very proud to have my graphics in a Cesar Pelli building. Well, it looks like it was always there. It just belongs. My father was a contractor of great success, but he was a sensitive builder. He cared about the road that he built, or the houses that were developed, the land that was on which houses were developed. And I think this was something that instilled in me, because I think that you can make money and still do right by the environment. And thinking of moving people on roadways, well, I ended up eventually moving people with graphics. My mother really was a natural piano player, and she played from the time I can remember. I could hear her chords, and it was so lovely to grow up that way, because she played for her pleasure, and then she would also play for things, and she was a great piano player, and she could go from Mozart to Brubeck, or she was Bach to Brubeck. That sounds better. So I think that growing up with my father's talent as a road builder and land mover, and my mother's talent on the piano, gave me a pretty good balance. My sister went to Newcomb College before me, and it had a marvelous art school, and that is probably the reason why she chose it and I chose it. I think Newcomb was a great place because, number one, it's in a fascinating city. New Orleans is one of our rich cities in this country. It's an international kind of city. Art school was very different. We had a lot of paint-stained blue jeans. We were the first hippies, I think. I think later on all the colleges began to look like art students, if you noticed. The linkage between Newcomb and Yale was remarkably good because of the professors, the quality, the Bauhaus theory of art and architecture, and I think I was very well prepared. When I was interviewed by the head of graphics and one of the architectural professors. They were very impressed with my record at Newcomb, and of course we had those Yale connections with my professors at Newcomb, so that certainly was a help. And then I think they liked the fact at the time, they liked the fact that I was Southern and a woman, because this was good for Yale, and this was a time when women were encouraged, and they also wanted to break out of the Ivy League corridors, the New England regime, sort of, that where so many of the students came from. I had to score to impress them that a woman wouldn't just come to Yale and just to find her man and leave. So I had to work extra hard. I think we rode a little harder. Albert was he and Annie, his wife, were very much loved in Germany. And he had first come over to Black Mountain and set up the school there in North Carolina, and then Yale got him from Black Mountain to come and head up art and architecture for the school. And he just brought the most wonderful stimulus, because he brought the Bauhaus to Yale, literally. And at that time, it was a heyday of modern art. And the Bauhaus people were still thriving. Mies van der Rohe was there, and Walter Gropius, and Sybil Holy-Nage, and all these great people were there, and they all came and lectured to us, and we had Albers the whole time. So he revolutionized the school. I don't know anyone else, but I was the only one that I think combined graphics with architecture, which I called architectural graphics. A bridge builder, so to speak, between these two fields. So I think I was alone. I don't know if people came after. And a field was being pioneered that later became environmental graphics, I mean, more or less as a name. My peers, the people that I graduated with, particularly in the architectural fellows, just helped me tremendously. They would tell me about projects that I should be interviewed for, and they couldn't have been more helpful. I was heavily into my career, and I'm so glad that I stayed with it, because I think it made a lot of difference. I hope it helped people get around airports at least. I think being my age, 87, is remarkable in itself, because I don't think anybody expects to be 87. And I don't think artists stop. There's no way you say, well, okay, you're going to retire. Okay, well, you know, I don't think creativity retires. You might retire, but I don't think you start thinking and seeing and learning, and because that's how art happens. It's by learning something new. It's always new. It's never something you already knew. And I don't know of an artist that would be worth his salt that didn't see things fresh.
I interviewed Jane 20 years ago when I was writing for the Palm Beach Post, and I knew that day that she had a remarkable story, and someday it would get told on a larger scale. The highlight of production was hearing Jane talk about her remarkable experiences over the years, meeting people like Louis Kahn and Pablo Picasso. Essentially, I'm a storyteller, and this medium is exciting, it's new, it presents lots of opportunities to really tell wonderful stories about fascinating people. Jane's story and how she came to be the person who essentially invented wayfinding systems for large public places. When you get that sound bite that you can tell just wraps it up perfectly.
This program is brought to you in part by Oolite Arts, what Miami is made of, and by Friends of South Florida PBS.